The region currently known as Southeast Asia is an area steeped in rich traditions and a deep heritage. Geographically comprised of modern-day Brunei, Burma, Cambodia, Timor-Leste, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam, the region has undergone massive changes throughout the 18th century that have shaped the development of all countries within and surrounding the area. This rough era of time is more commonly known as the early modern period of Southeast Asia. This period of time can be characterized by trade, war, agricultural advancements, shifting political alignments, and a changing maritime culture, all of which have had a profound effect in changing the social dynamics within the space. Regarding agricultural changes, the region experienced vast changes in the development of techniques, tools, introduced crops, and population growth. This population change greatly affected the formation of larger, more intricate societies. This also led the drive for increased production of crops to feed these ever-growing populations. One such advancement came in the form of new crops. These included corn, introduced from the Americas, sweet potatoes, which were adopted for their high yield and nutritional value, and peanuts, also known for their high yield. Another advancement was increases in the ability to cultivate rice. Irrigation received a large overhaul with the development of sophisticated channel systems in areas such as the Mekong Delta and the Chao Phraya River in Thailand, allowing for greater rice production, leading to a surplus. Finally, flood control became a helpful tool many regions used to protect crops from yearly flooding in the monsoon seasons. These impacted crop cultivations, allowing for a more stable supply of production. Another important area regarding the development of Southeast Asia is the impact of political structure and social hierarchies. With a struggle for power and a mentality of expansionism, many regions with strong centralized cities, such as Siam, now known as Thailand, vied for power within the region, aiming to control key trade routes. These trade routes were key lifelines to a wealth of riches from key European powers which were of ever-increasing presence within the area. Many colonial powers had a presence within the area, including the Dutch, British, and French. These powers often controlled local politics, aiming to serve the interests of trade and wealth for colonial merchants rather than the will of the local people. The 16th century marked the beginning of European colonial insertions into Southeast Asia. Portuguese explorers, such as Vasco da Gama, navigated sea routes to India and subsequently ventured into Southeast Asia. They established trading posts, gaining control over key maritime routes and establishing a foothold in the region. By the early 17th century, the Dutch East India Company emerged as a dominant player in Southeast Asian trade. They established control over present-day Indonesia and the strategic port of Batavia, which is now Jakarta, on Java, creating a monopoly on the spice trade. Meanwhile, the British East India Company began its presence in the region, focusing mainly on the Malaya region. The British established trading posts and forts to secure their interests and compete with Dutch influence. With these trade companies came significant industrial advancements for the region. For example, Batavia experienced extensive construction of fortifications, administrative buildings, and residential areas to support their ever-increasing presence within the area. This increased travel, however, did lead to challenges, such as the spread of infectious diseases like malaria and cholera, greatly impacting the health of inhabitants. Class was another large separator which shaped the social landscape of the region. With the rise of commerce and trading, there was a sharp rise of a powerful class of merchants, those who influenced products and goods, often extorting local supplies to gain wealth. Goods were primarily transported through the use of port cities and trading hubs. Once again, these wealthy individuals often influenced local politics in order to gain favor and ideal circumstances for their endeavors. This trade brought upon positive change too, with the many different ports, trade routes, and products, there was widespread cultural exchange. Ideas, technologies, and practices began being shared across the globe. This primarily enriched local cultures, but also partially served to create tensions between traditional and emerging ideas. With increased trade, so came increased economic stability to the region. Improvements in agriculture, governments, and infrastructure proved to be valuable for people of the region, and large cities began to prosper as trade, cultural, and innovative hubs. These previously mentioned trade networks also helped establish a maritime culture throughout the 18th century within Southeast Asian countries, particularly those with large natural aquatic features such as the Indonesian islands and the Philippines. Their natural geographic locations made these key ports for trade routes within the continent. This maritime trade often influenced the power of various kingdoms, with shifting markets and trade routes leading to the decline and rise of powers. Various countries like Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia benefited from maritime trade significantly, with major present-day ports of Bangkok, Jakarta, and Malacca being established, flourishing into vibrant cultural centers and modern-day cultural trade hubs. Going into more depth on trade networks, these played a crucial role in shaping the development of Southeast Asia within the 18th century. Southeast Asia had long been a crossroads of trade, thanks to its strategic location between the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea. The region was integral to the Silk Road maritime routes, which connected China, India, the Middle East, and Europe. These routes, primarily through maritime means, were key in influencing the social, political, and economic landscape of the region. There was a large boom in trade as advancements in shipping technology and further colonial involvement meant items considered luxuries in Europe could be shipped out for little cost to local companies. These items, such as silk, spice, and timber, were in high abundance in the region and highly valuable to Europe. Specific Southeast Asian economies began specializing in the production of specific areas of the market and niche items to fill the increased needs of elites in Europe and the Americas. One example of this was the increased consumption of cash crops, such as tea and coffee, within Europe and the colonies. This led to a shift in land use and agricultural practices. In conclusion, the 18th century was a transformative period for Southeast Asia, marked by significant advancements and shifts that profoundly influenced its development. Overall, the interplay of trade networks, agricultural progress, political shifts, and maritime culture in the 18th century played a pivotal role in shaping Southeast Asia's trajectory. These developments set the stage for the region's continued evolution and integration into the global economy, leaving a lasting impact on its social, economic, and political landscape, the effects of which can still be seen today. The agricultural advancements of the 18th century laid the groundwork for modern farming practices in Southeast Asia. The political and social transformations of the period contributed to the complex political landscape of the region. Maritime trade networks established during this time continue to influence Southeast Asia's role in global trade. As a result, the effects of these 18th century developments remain a fundamental part of Southeast Asia's historical and contemporary identity.